Welcome, Bitcoiners. We got a sun up. We're good. We got a Bitcoin running. We're good. All that's left to do is have some water and talk about what's new. Fortunately, I can't get coffee this morning. I tried. They were out of cups, and the lineup for espresso was a little long, but we love water. We've had a lot of coffee. We wake up at 4 a.m. We're part of the 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. cloud, right? Told my cat that the sun is up. Boo boo. The sun is indeed super up, guys. Good morning, all. Thanks, Boo Boo Bodacious. Good morning, Justin. Good morning. Good morning, DM Zatar. And indeed, thank God it's Friday, mates. Indeed, we love Fridays. We love Fridays. Good morning, another day in paradise. Bitcoin indeed still running. Yes, I am on the island of St. Vincent this morning. St. Vincent. Yeah, well, we're okay, McTimmy. We don't, we've had enough coffees. We like the coffee energy on the show, but you can drink whatever you like on the show. You don't have to drink coffee. Now, we like to start the day with the Moscow time moment, right? What's the fakest news we can find? We got a good one today. This one is a coffee is my favorite drug, indeed. This one is from the Brookings Institute. If you don't know what the Brookings Institute is, we're going to talk a bit more about it. It's one of the great money or information laundering institutes in the world. What's information laundering, right? You get the think tanks and they come up with a thing and then everyone references it and then it's real, no matter what. It doesn't matter what, right? It happens all the time. The Brookings Institute, coincidentally, was founded by the Federal Reserve and the IRS. And it's been a long time, and they're worried about I think that they definitely have our best interests in. I mean, who doesn't? These have our best interests in mind. And everyone working together, everyone's problems, right? It's humanity at its best. So this is what the Brookings Institute says, right? Remember, they're here to help. My new report for Brookings Institute sheds light on the opaque medium of podcasting. Where, in the words of one prominent host, you can say whatever you want. Oh, geez, yeah, you better protect us from that, right? Audible reckoning is what it's called. How top podcasters spread unsubstantiated and false claims. So, listen to the Institute, guys. They are really worried about you and know that the podcasts are opaque, right? This is an opaque show, right? So careful. You've been warned. Opacity, right? You've been warned about my opacity. So, Brookings Institute, I wonder, I tried to find out what they thought of Tulsi Gabbard. They didn't have too much to say, but lots of people did. We had Mitt Romney, who, of course, told her she was treasonous and that she was a Russian agent, old Mitt, right? That's what Mitt said about Tulsi Gabbard when she quit the Democrat Party a little. But why did they say that? Well, our friend War Clandestine continues to provide entertaining tweets. We don't know, right? We don't know who War Clandestine is, right? We just continue to read his tweets and think we have narrative bias. They line up with how we think. So it could be a blind spot, right? But what do they say about, what does War Clandestine say about Tulsi? Just one second. What does War Clandestine say about Tulsi? Just a moment. So, pardon me, just a bit of a interruption. Good morning. So, what does War Clandestine say about Tulsi Gabbard? Well, he did a couple. So, the reason why he did the tweet because Gabbard yesterday testified in Congress, and she lit Mitt Romney on fire, and it was pretty funny. So, a lot of people were talking about it today. And War Clandestine followed up. He said, "Do you remember why Mitt Romney accused Tulsi Gabbard of committing treason? Because Tulsi spoke out about the U.S. funded biolabs in Ukraine. Did she? I didn't know that. I forgot. The memory that got memory hold as well. I remember Tulsi talking about this a year ago, but so much stuff going on. It's hard to say, right? So he follows up. Tulsi was one of the political figures who stood up into the story about the U.S.-funded biolabs in Ukraine, and she was promptly attacked by deep state rat Mitt Romney amongst a host of others. So Here's the Independent news article that referenced it. Miss Tulsi Gabbard of treasonous lies. Pardon everyone. Independent Mitt Romney accuses Tulsi Gabbard of treasonous lies about Russia's invasion. He followed up. Turns out the biolabs in Ukraine were real, and Tulsi was telling the truth. Of course, this was a well-established fact, but that didn't stop deep state subservient hack Mitt Romney from despicably claiming Tulsi was treasonous. And he shared the original video. Of course, this was so here's Tulsi Gabbard saying so this is from last March 13th, this video. She says there are 25 plus U.S. funded biolabs in Ukraine. If breached, would release deadly pathogens to U.S. and the world. We must take action now to prevent disaster. U.S., Russia, Ukraine, NATO, UN, and EU must implement a ceasefire around these labs until they're secured and the pathogens are destroyed. And he followed the last of the 4 tweets. Why is it that anyone who even mentions the biolabs in Ukraine is heavily smeared and shamed as a Russian agent? Why are establishment sensitive, and why do they lie so often? Biolabs in Ukraine, they said didn't exist. We all know it, right? So that's the point he's making. And now, when you think of everything that's going on with the biolabs over there, and everything we Twitter files and everything we've learned now in looking through COVID and what happened, and especially now story after yesterday and the day before has become you got to wonder, right? You got to wonder. Take Germany, for example, right? This is from Cheberuki Man. He tweets, imagine being a German and not comprehending that 2 of your NATO allies blew up your cheap gas supply and substituted it with their expensive gas supplies, right? So that's one person cluing in on one, right? If Germany were a real country still, the confirmation that America blew up the pipeline and planned to do this prior to the war would mean withdrawal from NATO, cessation of any diplomatic ties with America, and shutting down the embassies. If we had the means to actually prosecute it, it would even warrant war. It would warrant it. So, now, what's the problem here, right? We know that there's things on around good and bad, Putin and Russia and Ukraine and America. No one talking about the biolabs, but still everyone understanding there's conflict there and not really tying it together, right? In Germany, of course, they have the more acute perception of what's going on in Ukraine simply because it's draining their entire reservoirs of retirement funds. It's costing everyone a fortune right now in Germany. So you get Germans who are paying the price for this. American energy companies, of course, getting wealthier and wealthier. Now, we said from the start on this show that, of course, American energy companies didn't do this, but they definitely backstopped it, right? It was definitely said that Europeans aren't going to freeze to death. They're going to have energy because we'll supply it. So you can get rid of this supply and we'll make up for it, right? The cost of it is what everyone is dealing with now, right? And it's expensive, right? It's expensive. So how did we end up in this position where we've got a war, we've got the price being paid by Germans in terms of energy costs, and here we are, right? No one able to talk about this stuff. Everyone coming up with just more spin, and no one meeting in any place where you're actually dealing with the meat of the subject. Everyone's sort of talking around in circles. And in some ways, we can say that the reason this even happened in the first place is Germany basically has an energy literacy level of 0, right? They don't have any energy literacy. They don't know what they're talking about. You'd think that Germans, with all of their education and all of their understanding, would have some form of energy literacy, but indeed, it looks like they substituted, as we've said many times on the show, the feelings of Greta and the feelings of a teenage girl in lieu of a logical and efficient energy policy, right? So Germany was the worst offender in baking in unsustainable electrical elements, right? So wind, solar, all these things that are just require batteries. They're not great in the overall grid, and Germany's now paying the price, right? So we've even charted here before that Germany's energy literacy ignorance stems from the fact Putin and Russia had been running disinformation campaigns around things like the Brookings Institute, around things like think tanks, in order to vilify nuclear energy so that Germans would make investments into things like wind and solar, thereby having a weak electrical grid, forcing them to be dependent on Russian energy supplies. So we can't mind read Putin. We don't know what he had in mind, but my old alma mater, France. It's a series of college. Went to one in the Alps, in Paris, and a famous professor has actually uncovered these efforts by Russians over time as being the main funders of anti-nuclear sentiment in Germany, therefore helping steer a lot of the resources towards Greta's happiness. And Greta's happiness, the actual objective of German energy policy, and to which all German energy literacy is oriented. She's still unhappy. She's still complaining about stuff, but that's not the problem here. But the good news is, and this is something that I've been anticipating for a while, because I don't actually know the right matrix and solutions for energy going forward, right? Lots of people and I'm super bullish. Someone like Elon Musk, right, has been talking about energy and solar for a long time, right? He says we have enough solar energy. If we figure out the batteries, we'll be fine, right? So I don't know the answer. I've never known the answer. And usually if Elon Musk says something and it disagrees with what I say, I'll definitely look into it, right? He's one of those people, like even Jeff Bezos. Say what you will about Jeff Bezos, right? He's a very smart guy. And if Jeff Bezos disagrees with my worldview on something, and he says it up front and articulates it and lays out his thinking and shows his work, I'm prone to reading it, right? Because I want to know what this guy thinks, and I'm pretty sure I can learn from Jeff Bezos on any given day about any subject. And the same goes for Elon Musk, right? Now, I'm not saying he's right. I don't know all of them. And one of these cases is energy matrix, because my opinion is not the same as Elon Musk's opinion, right? Now, I'm not, my opinion next to Elon, I would say, is a little weakly held, because I'm going to give Elon all the time he needs to explain it. He seems to understand this stuff better than most people in the world. And the good news is, this is about to happen. Elon Musk unveiled that he's going to release the master, which he calls the path to fully sustainable energy future on Earth, and he's presented on March 1st. So not long now, a few weeks away, right? And I believe this conversation is going to clear up a lot for me and a lot for everyone in the world, because there are kinds of folks that lack the minerals or the capacity to get the minerals out to take batteries. So in this version, here are the two major solutions being offered for energy right now, right? There's other stuff that's coming. Innovation is real. We might figure this all out. But the two solutions that are being offered right now are nuclear, which seems like a direct path, right? We can do this. And Elon is pro-nuclear, right? He is pro-nuclear. He said a few times now that it's part of the mix. It's not everything, it's part of the mix. There are other people who think nuclear is everything, and that I'm in that group, right? I'm a big fan of nuclear. Now, I think we can have solar for all kinds of reasons, but as far as national grids go, maybe not. But I don't know. And the reason there is this debate is because the actual materials, right? Materials required to make batteries and so require a lot of oil, first of all. So I'm not even getting into the world we don't use oil. I don't have that as part of my matrix. The capacity of combustion is useful in any circumstance. To get rid of combustion altogether. I don't think cars actually require combustion. That's really dangerous. And when I spend time on the island and I see this tiny island, it's 70 miles long, and they've got these cars with combustion engines everywhere. And the reason why we even have car accidents in the first place is because the combustion engine is so complicated and heavy that it requires this great big steel frame around it. And then you get these steel frames holding these heavy combustion engines that hit even at small speeds. And we've had carnage for 100 years now. Carnage, just broken bodies, jaws of life, all this kind of stuff. So in my future, the thing I've talked about a lot, the Nakamoto Trail and what's going on with electric vehicles, my idea is they scale down in a sense, that they become almost like delivering golf carts. And when you actually start to think about the number of parts required for a car in the future, you start to see without a combustion engine, you're talking about 100 parts to make a car. It's 100 parts. Maybe there's chassis, some wheels, steering wheel. When the drivetrain is just a supercapacitor battery shooting to a motor that turns the engines, you start to see that the future of car making is a lot less complicated. You don't require these huge supply chain things. You've reduced the complexity by a tremendous amount, right? You reduce parts, just the basic amount of parts required to make a car. There's no hoses, there's no liquid, there's no coolant system, there's no valves, none of that stuff. It's all gone, right? All these little washers and plastic bits that always break on your car, all those things are gone, right? Transmission oil, gear oil, all this stuff, right? All of it not necessary in an electric world. And you can even imagine that we'd get back to sort of a cottage industry of cooking, right? That you can have local car manufacturing and people making different types of cars and bespoke cars everywhere, and cars that look like old golf cart versions of old Corvettes or something like that, right? Old Porsches. You can get into a really creative space, and that's where I think we're headed, right? And I imagine there's going to be some solar and all that stuff, but what Elon's suggesting is not really something I understand, because people keep saying these batteries and all of this stuff is going to require so much oil and we can't even get out of the ground in time. So therefore, it will necessarily be nuclear. And what I would like to see, and this is something Scott Adams has mentioned, and now Alex Epstein is jumping on board, because Alex Epstein, if you don't know who Alex Epstein is, he's one of the great thinkers around the global warming psyop and all of that stuff, right? He has a really powerful book. I think it's called Fossil Future or something like that. He's a lot like the Bjorn Lomborg. Bjorn Lomborg, I think, was the first at this game in Europe as being the most energy literate person in the world and understanding what goes into our energy matrices, and really talking about the anti-catastrophist argument. Of course, we can tell if you just look at the numbers. The thing is global warming, and relative to what and to where, we don't know. The real debate, right? That whenever someone tells you about consensus in global warming, that's what they're talking about. There's consensus about the temperature having changed, right? We didn't have good temperature maybe 100 and something years ago. So, for example, America had the best temperature measurements and the widest and deepest variety of data. And we don't see much global warming around America. But of course, the global warming consensus is that it's happening at the poles at a greater extent than the middle of the Earth. And there's some form of thermostatic control that disperses heat from the middle of a planet to the poles. And we do a collection of increased temperature data readings from both of our poles, right? So I'd say there is consensus on that. Where the consensus, of course, starts to break down is it humans causing it? Is it something else? If you want to make it about probably humans, but I have no idea, right? It's not doing, looks like it probably, yeah, maybe, who cares? Because it's not even the important question. The important question is what happens next. There's three questions you always have to remember on global warming. And the first two, don't really bother arguing about them. They're boring and stupid. Is global warming happening? Probably, yeah. Looks like it. There's a way to argue against it, but not there. Humans causing it, I'll give it to you. I don't care. I'm not going to bother arguing about it, right? Looks like it. I don't have proof otherwise. But the most important question is, what are the effects, right? What's going to happen? And this is where there's no such thing as consensus, not even close, right? There's catastrophists, there's optimists, that's where you get into the world of, carbon dioxide is good, maybe, I don't know, like it looks good to me, right? Even Elon Musk has said we're in a type of a type of ice age right now. I've heard him say that. I don't have a historical context of our global temperatures that's detailed enough to argue that or even say it, right? Now, Kevin says it's primarily celestial mechanics and solar cycles. I'd say that's an argument, but I'm as unconvinced of that as I am about the anthropogenic one, right? Because there's no way to tell. Like, I don't know. Maybe sounds like it. Sounds like there's a lot of major. I saw yesterday or someone shared that the sun had lost it's like a big piece of it. A slice of the sun blew away from its pole the other day. So again, I think the minute you speak with certainty about it's the sun, it's people, you're already getting into the narrative world of narrative bias and these things, right? What you just have to keep in mind, and the only pressing important question is, what are the effects, right? What are the effects? Are they catastrophic or are they manageable, right? And there's no consensus on that. No one agrees. And people like Bjorn Lomborg says no catastrophe, right? Of course, models do not take into account human innovation. They imagine a static, they freeze our innovation here and now, right? They just say, oh, we'll be using combustion engines for everything to do everything forever, right? Um, when kids make bed. Yeah, they did a little bit today. I had to get them out of here a little quicker. So they do make the bed, guys. So, um, so this energy literacy question is really important because how we're going to manage it is still sort of up in the air. I believe there's 1,000 ways the solution can be cut that would be beneficial to people, but there's no sort of right chart. But now that Elon is coming this, I hope he engages with other people like Alex Epstein who disagree with him. Alex Epstein is a big nuclear guy and says everything. He's one of those people who says everything Elon is saying about batteries and solar is off, right? It's off. So Scott Adams suggested, right, that and Epstein debated live, right, after Elon does his March 1st presentation about the future of energy, where we will, as I understand, get more details on the battery side. And it's not so simple as to say, oh, we need the cobalt and all the earth minerals to make the batteries. I am a big fan of graphene and all of these things, and the Nobel Prize that was already given to the people who discovered graphene, right? And discovered that we can actually architect things down at the nanoscale, right? And that more or less graphene, which is just carbon, which is super abundant in the world, become a battery if it's to this lattice tech structure. Lattice nanotech, basically looking like chicken fence, right? Like chicken fencing, and that actual form, and it comes in a tube, nanoscale. That form itself is one of the most resilient and resistant forms in the world. Whenever you've heard stories about building an elevator to space, it's with this nanotech graphene innovation. That's what we would do it with, right? Because the tensile force between the atoms or whatever atoms are so strong that we could actually engine something that strong and it wouldn't wobble and fall and all these things. So there is a world where this is also used in battery technology. They've already built the batteries. They said they already won the Nobel Prize for this stuff, right? So, and this was well over 10 years ago already. So this stuff is here. And if we hear more about that, if we hear that Tesla is moving to a different battery, what is it, substrate or substance or whatever they call it, right? As we understand now, batteries are like the batteries we used to put in our Walkmans or whatever, just all stuff. Remember, that's not storing an electrical charge. That's storing chemicals which release an electrical charge, right? So it's not quite the same. And the batteries that we have invented with the what's the batteries that we all use now? The phone batteries. I can't remember the name of the main substance in them, but that is holding an electrical charge, right? But it minimizes over time, and its capacity goes down over time, and that's why you have to throw these batteries out because they get used up, right? So if we actually get this debate now between which energy system is better, we're going to be doing pretty well. Alex Epstein, however, doubts it's possible. This is what he says. He doesn't think Elon will debate with him. So we'll look out. We'll look out for this. On Scott Adams Said's show yesterday, he requested a debate between me and Elon Musk on Tesla's fully sustainable energy future for Earth, which is what he's going to be talking about. Yeah, the lithium ion. Yeah, you got it. Lithium ion, guys. Yeah, lithium ion. Sorry about that. I hope Elon does too, but Peter Thiel's explanation in the second why that's unlikely. So he brings a few here and says myth, just a small area of solar panels plus storage can power the world. So this is Elon Musk's main point, right? That that a small area can do it. What Alex Epstein argues is that it's much larger than you think, right? It's not these little things. It's actually way, way more. And he just goes through all of these gigafactories and how they might not work, and solar would generate this, and if we had a battery. Now, his outlook is Elon's outlook is possible, right? You mean nuclear, if this was true, if you could store it at the scale. And here's what Alex Epstein says in summation. P.S. I am in many ways an Elon Musk fan, and we agree on many things, including resource abundance and the value of a growing population. I'd enjoy an open-ended discussion, not necessarily a debate, but the false claims about solar, wind need to stop, right? He says. So at least we're going to find out more about what's on, right? But what I'm in when Elon makes this energy discussion and hopefully adds to the energy literacy capacity of the world, and learning more and understanding what's going on, and that would be great, right? Because maybe there aren't right answers, and this kind of debate, or at least showing the nuance of why his decisions were there, could be super important, right? But there might be another interesting thing that comes out of this, right? And that is, of course, he's a Bitcoin fan, right? Of course, a Bitcoin fan, right? We know that Tesla has held Bitcoin. He personally holds Bitcoin. If on March 1st, he starts tying energy literacy with financial literacy, like we do at our Bitcoin show, right? Bitcoin 23 in Miami, May 18th to 20th. Tons of energy literacy, tons of financial literacy, right? Bitcoin is the greatest vehicle for financial literacy ever invented, right? It has created more capacity amongst the human population to understand what's going on with money than anything else, right? Not even close. And it's going to do the same thing with energy, because it's really going to fuse them, right? Now, what would be cool, right? What would be cool is if Elon starts talking about energy literacy and ties it to financial literacy in a way that Henry Ford once did. Here we're going to start to get into some simulation stuff. Henry Ford, 100 years ago, when this Brookings Institute stuff started, right? The preeminent car maker, the preeminent inventor, moving people all around the world, a goal of moving every human being around the world, right? He was just a simple farmer, super uneducated, and we're going to talk about that, right? By all accounts, an ignoramus, right? And not only an ignoramus, he, when the Federal Reserve began, started arguing against the Federal Reserve and folks like the Brookings Institute, all of these other entities. And what happened to him? He was attacked on all fronts, as Elon Musk is getting attacked today, right? And this is what's happening to Elon Musk. Believe it or not, Musk is now under investigation by the Biden crime family, right? So the Biden crime family is looking into Elon Musk's Neuralink thing, or no, Neuralink, right? He's got a Neuralink thing. And the Neuralink story has got Peter Buttigieg, right? Secretary Pete, Mayor Pete, has opened up an investigation on Elon Musk and what pathogens. They're opening up a thing on him, like the biolab story in Ukraine Tulsi was talking about. Here's what's happening. The Biden administration, via the Department of Transportation, Peter Buttigieg, just initiated a political hit job discussing an investigation on Elon Musk. Never guess what they are accusing him of. Trafficking hazardous pathogens. And who's this from? Can you guys guess which news entity in America ran this story? Can you guess? Let me see how we are. I think the collection of the maybe the most well-informed group that gets together every morning and talks about energy and Bitcoin and all this stuff. Can you guys guess, right, which American news agency? Glenn Greenwald would get it right away, right? Who ran the story about the dangerous pathogens of Elon Musk? Can anyone guess? An American news network, right? The one Elon Musk is regularly talking about. Well, I'll let you know. It's NBC, right? Yeah, P-Man Van got it, right? There you go. P-Man Van got it. U.S. Department of Transportation says it's investigating Elon Musk's brain plan company Neuralink over potentially illegal movement of hazardous pathogens. So Secretary Pete did an investigation into his political adversary over an email from an animal welfare advocacy group claiming that monkey Neuralink were using files may have carried infectious diseases in violation of federal law. So let me get this straight. Elon restores free speech, and I expose Biden's role in deep state biological network in Ukraine. Then Biden's cabinet opens an investigation into Elon over alleged pathogen trafficking over an email from an animal rights group. Mind you, the Russian and Chinese military have been formally accusing the Biden crime family of biological malfeasance, negligence, bioweapons production, pathogen trafficking for over a year, and the US government to say Russian disinformation, wild conspiracy stuff. This is psychological projection, right? Thank you, war clandestine. See, that's why we know war clandestine's right. He just stuff as us, right? We know, right? We know. The minute they agree with us, they're right. This is a psychological projection by the Biden administration in an attempt to counter the deep state biological network in Ukraine that is now in public view. Their response was to manufacture a misleading headline with provocative buzzwords, obfuscation, and deception. The animal rights group accused Elon's company of potentially dealing with research monkeys that have carried potentially dangerous pathogens, not accusing Neuralink of creating pathogens. The real question is where does Neuralink get their monkeys from? You'll also notice that Secretary Pete got the email animal rights group this morning, immediately opened an investigation, and by 1:30, the Department of Transportation rep had already reached out and told reporters about it, right? So the Biden admin will immediately open an investigation into Elon Musk over email complaints from an animal rights group, but the Biden admin ignore when Russia and Chinese military want to investigate Hunter from Metabiota in Ukraine, studying dangerous pathogens. Secretary Pete and Biden just perpetrated egregious abuse of executive power, need to be impeached from their positions, and the adults need to be put back in charge. The show has gone on long enough, and the people are no longer bullshit, right? And there's another story today. Elon Musk fired an engineer, and they say it's because his visibility was down, right? So maybe, right? Maybe. But here's what Andrew Howard, right? Now let's go back to Henry Ford for a second, right? So Henry Ford, this is what happened to him, right? When all of this stuff went on. This is what happened to poor old Henry, right? So Henry Ford started this thing about war and money and who's paying. He talked about the people you're not supposed to talk about that are coincidentally around, right? That are around. So he talked about them, and so he's forever vilified, right? He's one of these people now who had a lens put on him historically, so you can't talk about the newspaper that he started. It was pretty crazy stuff, right? But anyway, they actually ran false litigation against him in his time, right? Someone called him an ignoramus, right? And so he sued them for libel, right? And now the only way to defend yourself in a libel case is to prove it's true. So they made a huge media spectacle at the time, and they brought Henry Ford into court, and it was a bunch of whiz kids that just made him look like an idiot. They asked him when of 1812 was. He had no idea, right? He knew nothing other than cars, right? He was a farmer who wanted farmers to have cars, and he was a tinkerer and tinkering farmer who invented the automobile, right? The tinkering farmer invented the automobile and then did the thing that no one saw coming, which is created the economic conditions where they would be paid enough, the people making the cars, to buy the cars. And no one had thought of that before. So he went, I think, 3, 4, 5 times more than minimum wage is what he started to pay people at Dearborn, Michigan, a factory when he invented the assembly line, right, was paying these people really well. And his whole dream, of course, was that the regular farmer would be able to buy his vehicles, right? So he had a very practical sense of all of this stuff. Now, I don't know the ins and outs, and I cannot mind read Henry Ford. I see what he did, and I say, wow, he helped a lot of people in the world. He did have a few crazy ideas, but he had some amazing ideas as well. And this court case having a weird effect that he had in his life, right? So people laughed, the mainstream media, everyone piled in, because in the end, he was so stupid that the judge said, I'm sorry, Mr. Ford, this isn't a libel or a slander case. You actually are an ignoramus. He's allowed to call you that. And, right, so he lost. He actually lost because the actual words were ignoramus, right? You're an ignoramus. And the person who was getting accused of the slander proved he was an ignoramus. And the effect that ended up having, though, is that the American people all joined in behind Henry Ford. He got millions of likes. It's just like, screw all these people, and they don't know what they're talking about, and but I have to wonder, right? I have to wonder if Henry Ford was being attacked for other reasons, and what were those reasons? Remember, Brookings Institute comes in right around the time of the U.S. Federal Reserve, at the same time as U.S. Social Security. Two things that have turned out to be not so great for the audience Henry Ford was thinking about, those farmers who could buy his cars. And World War One erupted not long after these institutions came in. And Henry Ford had a major problem with this, because Henry Ford saw the war between the people he hated the most, the financiers in New York City, right? He worked his life to get the company private, just like Elon Musk did. It was the same thing. He had sold shares, Wall Street got its hands on it, and he spent years trying to get them out of it. Elon Musk did, right? So, uh, when World War One broke out, right, he had a big problem with the Federal Reserve. He had a huge problem with Social Security, and he had a huge problem with the fault lines of World War One, which were gold-backed nations versus fiat-backed nations. Right, that was World War One. If you look at World War One, it's actually gold-backed versus fiat-backed. Right, that's what's going on. And although they say the U.S. dollar was still backed by gold tenuously, so they could still create debt and still use debt in order to fuel their war efforts, which they did. So Andrew Howard, right, underlines here a famous article that Henry Ford wrote during, just at the end of World War One, in the aftermath of this fight between gold-backed nations and fiat nations. And this is what he says: "The essential evil of gold in its relation to war is the fact that it can be controlled. Break the control and use war. And the simple way to break these international banks, the way to end their exploitation of humanity forever, is to remove gold as a basis for the currency of the world. No matter who loses the war, there have been a great many loans. The gold system always wins. The young men from 18 to 30 fight the war and are maimed or killed, and internationalists are. With the international bankers, the fostering, starting, and fighting of war is nothing more nor less than creating an active market for money, a business transaction. If the different countries of the international groups are at war, it makes no difference. The standard American dollar is approximately 1/20th of an ounce of gold. Under the energy currency system, the standard would be a certain amount of energy exerted for 1 hour that would be equal to $1. It is simply a case of thinking and calculating in terms different from those laid down to us by international banking group, to which we have grown so accustomed that we think there is no other desirable standard. When government needs money, it will raise it by issuing currency against its imperishable natural wealth. Other countries, seeing our success, will do otherwise. The function of the money seller will appear. This energy currency Ford envisioned over 100 years ago came to fruition with the birth of Bitcoin in 2008. This is Andrew Howard now writing under his own voice. It's exciting that Bitcoin mining can vastly improve the quality of life and energy in the United States. Looking forward to seeing more updates from Satoshi Act Fund on this." Oh, and here's the source, and he talks about the source of the Henry Ford article. So what I'm saying is Elon Musk is about to do a lot for energy literacy. We don't know if he's right? We don't know if he's right. He's going to come out of him first. I'm definitely willing to listen, right? I don't know the answers. I don't think anyone knows the answers. What I do know that what Henry Ford said, merging of financial literacy with energy literacy, is probably the only way forward. It's probably the only way forward. And we're going to do it, right? That's the whole point of Bitcoin 2023, by the way. We're going to show tons of stuff on energy literacy, tons of stuff on financial literacy, which a lot of us already know, but we're going to tie them together, right? There's more going on. We like the art. We like the JPEGs. We like the talking on Nostr. We like keys being slung back and forth for all this stuff, right? We'll talk about relations and all that's going to be there. But what we're really talking about is energy literacy, Bitcoin at the center of energy finance, of decentralized grid finance, and doing exactly what Henry Ford, backing our money and measuring it with energy outputs. Byron Botham says, if Musk does indeed drive home a Ford, he may try to make you believe any color you want, but it will indeed be black. Yeah, that was something that Henry was famous for saying when, because Henry, of course, just like the Teslas, rarely change the model. Usually the same engine. The whole point was to not complicate things too much. That you're classed, right? This was a totally different way of thinking. He would be flabbergasted by the number of parts that are in a car now, and would wonder how it's even possible to put these things together in a way that's efficient. Maybe he'd buy the robots, I would imagine, but so am I. We love the robots. But here's the thing. If Elon starts combining these two subjects, right? If we take the thing that Alex Epstein's not going to do for you and Bjorn Lundberg aren't going to do is bring in the financial literacy piece too. They're great on energy literacy, great, right? No, the best, amazing energy literacy people. But there's one more level, right? There's one more level, and that's energy and money combining. And Bitcoiners have the inside view, inside what that all means. And I think, I think, I think Elon might start tying these things together. And if he does, hyper Bitcoinization is instant. I think because again, here's what's going to happen, right? You get the BRICS countries, and I wish them well, right? The BRICS countries are going to destroy the petrodollar, which is the reference rate for in dollars, which really created our entire economic system. That reference rate is what everything is built from. Everything, right? Energy capacity, foreign exchange markets are all benchmarked to that number and benchmarked to the currencies. And now that it's broken, and you might get another market for oil, BRICS 2, for example, right? You now have a competing marketplace for the price of energy globally, right? But I mean, are we going to buy the shitcoin from Russia, China, Brazil, India because of their great financial track record? Is that what's going to happen? We're all going to just go for their shitcoin? I don't think so. Bitcoin, as I've said many times on the show, does not need to be in everyone's pocket, does not need to have everyone who's their own bank and transacting P2P in order to really get to its next level up and next stage. What it requires is to be the energy market reference rate. And psychologically, if that happens, we are officially on a Bitcoin standard. Officially. That is, for me, the threshold through which Bitcoin must pass to become the Bitcoin standard. It is not wallets open. That will happen naturally, right? That will be a byproduct of being the standard reference rate for the economic output. And that's why it is infinity over 21 million, right? It's just a way to count. That's it. We have a way to now count our economic performance, and we can now orient capitalism in a way that isn't fiat dictates from hierarchical org structure, right? We're here. We're here. Elon advances the discussion on March 1st. I'm not sitting here for him to talk about Bitcoin that day. It would be great. It would be a fast track. I think we might just get details on his energy plans, how we're going to make the batteries, maybe a bit on innovation, right? Maybe a bit on innovation. I'm going to buy some Elon Musk Tesla power walls when I get back to Vermont this summer. Because I'm interested in storing some of my own energy, of course, and I have the land to do a bit of solar. I'm not going to do crazy amounts. So I believe in solar. I'm not an anti-solar guy. I want my own energy. I'm not getting my own nuclear reactor tomorrow. I dam up my river down at the down in my valley where my place is in Vermont, but they won't let me do that. So I got to do something. Right? I can get a bit of wind, but that's kind of boring. So I'm going to get the battery and the solar and see how it goes. And that might indeed be the solution. We'll see. Anyway. All right, team. I got another thing this morning. I hope you're all doing great. I'm going to see you tomorrow. Right? I'm going to see each other tomorrow. Helped me learn about money, banks, and fiat. Yeah, Bitcoin is it's the greatest tool that I've ever come across. I've given my own testimonial times as I went to all the fancy schools that aren't American, right? I went to schools in France and the best ones in Canada, and got a great education. I was working in the banking committee as one of my first jobs out of law school. I was a teacher before that, all kinds of stuff, right? I didn't know anything about financial literacy. Zero. I knew zero. Zero. I was helping research policy for policymakers on banking laws and had a very close relationship with everyone passing the laws, and generally by the time he wrote the Bitcoin study was writing everything for them. By then I didn't know anything until Bitcoin. I mean, that's how bad it is, right? That's how bad it is. Signs and signals, brilliant. Time, energy accounting, basing money on energetic capacity is a type 1 civilization would function exactly, as energy is the main driver of technological and sociological advancement. Precisely. And we're going to get there. And if Elon ties the two things in, if he does the Henry Ford thing, right, combining these things, bringing everything going through in war, everything he's going through in messaging, everything he's going through in with his energy business, and puts Bitcoin in the middle, I mean, it's the Manhattan Project. It's right. If he does it, we'll see. We'll see. All right, team. Peace.